Sorry for the noise. Okay. Welcome once again to this algorithm and data structure series. And we are so happy to see you here. We are so happy that you are doing this with us. And so, what's to expect? This is going to be a bi-weekly series. This is going to run for the next probably 6 months. I don't know. It may stop earlier. It may end earlier. I don't know. So it will be happening every 2 weeks. So after now, the next one would be next 2 weeks, every Saturday, morning, evening, afternoon, depending on when you're journeying from. You probably would have seen the time, same time as now, and 2 hours every Saturday, every 2 weeks Saturday. Then we have beginner and intermediate track, meaning that I would talk later about how each meetup is going to run. But for each meetup, we are taking care of beginners and intermediates. We understand that everybody are at different levels and everybody has different period of their journey into this. So for beginner, that means you are kind of still starting out. You are still probably pretty new to this. You are probably right now just comfortable solving maybe easy questions on lead code or Akarank, or you've not even solved any questions at all, but at least you have a knowledge of computer science, you have a knowledge of programming, you know what variables means, because we're not going to be teaching that here, I'm sorry. You at least have an idea of like normal programming concepts and all, but more or less like you've probably never started solving coding questions, making solving any coding challenges, or you don't have an idea of what this is, or you are still like just solving easy questions on this code. That's beginner. Then for intermediate track, you are probably solving from medium to maybe hard questions. I don't know, but majorly starting from medium questions on this code, right? That's what we classify as intermediate. So depending on wherever you are right now in your journey, you probably know where you belong. Then for every meetup, we're going to be teaching a concept. Today, we are just going to be doing an intro or getting started, kind of just letting you know about how the session is going to run, what to expect from the session, and how to get prepared when coming for each session. So for each of the session, we are going to be teaching a particular concept, maybe strings and arrays, or just strings and arrays, maybe stacks and queues. So like each of the meetup has a concept, and we will just do an overview of the concept. We'll give you enough resources for you to prepare and kind of read up and get as much understanding as you want. We'll solve questions also during the meetup. And then you have take-home challenges to solve before the next meetup. And I would encourage everyone to please take these take-home challenges kind of seriously. It's a way to kind of make you stay accountable to the fact that, okay, even if I know that I always wanted to solve questions. I'm like, hey, I want to always solve questions. I want to like get prepared. But we all know the way life is. We know the way we all do. We procrastinate a lot. And we're like, yeah, I'll solve it another day. And before you know, 1 month, you've not solved one question on Lead Code or anywhere. So this is a way for you to like just keep yourself in check. Something that you know that, oh, before the next meetup, I need to like have solved these questions. They are not going to be a lot. We're not going to tell you solve 10 questions on this code. Nobody's about that here. We are all about quality. It's not about how much questions you can solve. It's about how well you understand each question you solve, right? So either one or two, but try as much as possible to solve this question before coming. If you're not able to solve the questions, we have our Slack channel, post questions there. You can reach out to any facilitator, any mentor, and tell them, oh, you're having issues with this. Just try as much as possible to know that you are able to like provide the solution and understand what the question means and what the solution is. Like, you know that you've ticked it out of your box. So, and communications are going to be managed via Slack. We are not going to be using WhatsApp this time. I'm so sorry. This is because we want to keep things as organized as possible and as professional as possible. Slack, I know, is not that awesome, easy platform. I myself, I find difficulty like navigating or using it every day, but this is a way for you to like, you know, kind of get used to it. So I'm not going to force you to get used to it, but you just have to learn how to get used to it. We'll be managing the communications via Slack. We have the Slack channel here. I would post this link. Let me see. Okay. Now I can't. How did that go? Okay. Let me see. I will post the link on the Slack channel kind of later on. Let me see. Oh, okay. That be posted link already. Good, good. Sure. Okay. And when you join the Slack channel, join the Slack workspace, join this algorithm and data structures channel. So that's where you would be able to like post your questions and learn from other people's questions, learn from other people's, like it's a community for you to be able to communicate, to discuss with every other person that is kind of on this journey with you, and get whatever help or whatever, you know, support you need. Now, during the course of the series, we would be having coding challenges along the way. It's not going to be every single time. So these coding challenges, when we get to that bridge, we're going to cross it. Don't worry. It's super easy, super nice, but it's just a way for you to keep yourself in that environment where, okay, I was given a coding test to solve, or I'm probably in an environment where I'm given a link and I need to solve this question. Like now, it's time-based, every single thing. So just putting you in that environment to kind of prepare you for whatever it is. Maybe it's going to be like a technical interview or whatever it is, but it's time based. The fact that it's time based just gives you that sense of environment to be able to know I need to solve this question within a particular time and provide a solution to it. But it's super easy. You would be able to navigate it. Trust me when we get to that bridge. And then for consistent participants, because I know that it's not easy to commit to something and run through it to the end. I know issues happens. I know life gets in the way, but then we are trying to like, you know, put you, or we are trying to like give you the sense of staying committed to this, using this as a platform for you to like not just learn or get ready for whatever reason why you are joining. I don't know, but just staying committed to your goal, staying committed to the fact that I want to run through with this, I want to solve the challenges that are given to us, take home challenges that are given to us, solve them before every meetup, trying to attend every meetup, to learn from every meetup. So for consistent participants, we have mentors that have decided to volunteer to provide mock interviews for you. So if you have any interview coming up, if you feel like, oh, you have an interview coming up anytime soon, or you are going to be having an interview coming up, you can always reach out to me so that I can pair you up with these people and you can have a mock interview like before then, kind of have the environment where you have someone actually interview you, do like a whiteboarding session, and also get feedback. That's the major thing. Get feedback on how you did and how you can improve all this kind of thing. Yeah. And next, let me see. So I said we're going to be solving every a question every meetup series. This is going to be the schedule for like the next, I don't know how many months, but not so long. So today we are doing getting started. By next week we'll be talking about strings and arrays, and along the way we would go like that. And just to mention, please, nothing is written on stone. We've not written anything on stone yet. Things are bound to change. So don't come and hold me by my t-shirt. Come and hold me tomorrow and say, oh, I thought you said we are going to do this as also that. Life can happen, things can happen. So it's possible this changes, and it's possible the plan or the schedule changes, because it depends on the response from people. It depends on how people go along. It depends on the vibe we get from you. We can decide to like change this. We can decide to switch this up or tweak it So just depending on however it goes. So I'm just letting you know that this is not structured, this is not time stamped, this is not written down anywhere that, yeah, this is the way it must go. It is possible for things to change because we always want to tweak things as people's, to be able to suit people's need. We don't just want to like do things out there following just a routine and all that. And for each of the session, what happens is you we do check-in, kind of like a vibe check to know how you are, where you are at, are you enjoying this? Is this meeting your goals? Are you still like, feeling this? And then we'll take 20 minutes to do like an high level overview of the concept being taught. Like if we're talking about strings and array, we kind of just touch up on tips and tricks on how to solve questions that are relating to strings and arrays. We'll talk about maybe different algorithms you can use to be able to solve this kind of questions, or just give an high level concept on what exactly it is as related to interviews, not just learning it in detail. We would provide resources for you. We would always provide resources for you to be able to read up and kind of expand your knowledge, but we are not going to go in detail. We don't have time. And then the next part, which is the important part, is doing breakout rooms. So depending on each level you are, depending on where you are at your journey, just like I discussed the last time, either beginner or intermediate, we would send you to a breakout room. We would have breakout rooms where you have facilitators that are going to guide you to be able to solve a question. So what will happen is you are in a room with other people and you're trying to solve a question together. Try as much as possible to make input and make it interactive. Everybody, even though you're here to like, you know, meet other people or do this with other people, you still have your own journey. You still have whatever your goal. You still have the reason why you are here. So try as much as possible to get as much as you can from these sessions. So interact, solve questions, like speak up, talk, and participates. That's the major thing. So you have this whiteboarding session, you have a question, you either have like a peer programming place, maybe Ripple it or whatever, where you solve these questions together, you follow the normal problem solving process, and you provide solutions to this problem. So you get to learn. And if you don't understand anything, please feel free to call the attention of your facilitator, the person in the room that's kind of facilitating the session or organizing the session. Call their attention and be like, oh, I don't understand this. Oh, you said we're going to use binary search here. Why should we use binary search? Or what is a binary search? That's another thing. Please don't be shy. Don't be intimidated, and feel free to always ask any question you can. As there's one adage in Yoruba, or one thing that I always keep there to my heart. They say, if you anybody that asks for the way does not is to lost. So if you keep quiet, I don't know, nobody's going to know what you're going through. But feel free to speak up. If you don't understand, I don't know what a binary search is. Someone will talk to you. Someone will say, okay, this is what a binary search is, or you can read up about binary search here. Don't feel like, maybe they would think I don't know anything or anything like that. No, this is a safe space. Feel free to be able to say whatever you want to say. Feel free to be able to speak up and say, oh, I don't understand this. You are here to learn. You are not here to show how much you have grown, or you are not here to showcase anything. You are here to learn with other people and learn from other people. That is like super important. And for the breakout session, I am not sure how we'll do that yet, but I know Zoom has the option for you to be able to either allow participants to choose their breakout sessions, which I would have done, but sometimes some people go to the wrong room. So I would encourage that if you are joining and you probably are not so sure yet on how to navigate, sorry, on how to navigate the session, on how to navigate the breakout room, you can edit your name and append B or I to indicate what level you are in, so that when we are doing the breakout room, we can be able to assign you to the right breakout room. It's not compulsory for you to do this, but it's going to be helpful when assigning to breakout rooms. when we open the breakout room, you can be able to know that, okay, this person belongs to this room and we assign you correctly. That's it. So at this point, I would pause and say, do you have any questions? If you have any question, feel free to unmute and ask. And I want to use that time to quickly run through the chat in case if there are any questions there. Okay. So I'll take it as nobody has any question for now. Okay, moving on. So a few housekeeping rules just to be able to ensure that everybody enjoys and gets the maximum benefit from this. During the meetup, please keep your videos off, except for whoever is presenting, or except if we say, oh yeah, please feel free to turn on your video, maybe we want to take a picture or something, I don't know. Okay, someone has their hand raised. Richard?
Yeah, good evening from here.
Yeah, hi.
Um, yeah, I think I posted the question before you left the chat. I was
Okay.
asking if you could reach out for the mock interview sessions, like at this point that we're just getting started.
What do you say? You were asking
Yeah, if we could like reach out for the mock interview sessions at this point, we are just getting started. Like, it's that possible?
yes, it is.
All right. I will definitely reach out.
All right, no worries.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so moving back to the housekeeping rules, and during the meetup, please keep your videos off, except for the presenter and except if otherwise directed. This is because so that at like when we first join, when we are in this large kind of group, we probably have quite a lot of people and everybody has different internet bandwidth, especially for those in Nigeria. I mean, even if you're not in Nigeria, we know the way internet works in this virtual world. It can just decide to mess up on you on the day you need it most. So just to be able to help people around and reduce the load at which they have to make use of the internet, we want everybody to keep their videos off except for the presenter. Then stay muted when you're not speaking so that we can manage distractions. And also feel free to post your questions in the chat section. People will always attend to you, people will always listen to you, and the presenter can always check the chat section to know what's going on. And if you want to ask your question, use the hand raise emoji. It's where is it? It's kind of like down somewhere. I think you just need to like click it and raise your hands just the way Richard did earlier. But I know I've said all these rules and all that. When you get to your breakout room, you are breaking all these rules. When you get to your breakout room, you can put on your video to be able to interact with people more because it's a like smaller group. And yeah, if internet is not that an issue for anyone in the group, you can put on your video. Don't stay muted. So you're literally doing opposite of all this when you get to your meetup room. When you get to your breakout room, you need to like put on your video and put on your mic or mute yourself, speak up. Like I'm emphasizing that every single time and all over again. Make sure you speak up. This is a safe space for everyone. And this is for everybody to be able to like achieve their goals, interact, and get as much benefit as they want from this. It's no.
I hope, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sure.
Oh, okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, so when we start doing the problem solving part of all this, is there a particular language that we need to brush up on before coming to that's the next class, or like you can just, is there a particular language you're going to be using or?
No, no, we are not mandating anyone to learn a particular
Okay.
language. Feel free to use any language you want to use. During interviews, you are not given any language to use. You're actually encouraged to use a language you're very comfortable with, something you've been using currently, because it allows you to be able to know whatever trips and tricks is in that language. So, but for the meetup, yeah, we understand everybody, we have different languages to solve in. That is why we start with kind of problem solving, the actual problem solving.
Okay.
Problem solving
Okay.
is not about the language, it's more about we providing solution to a problem, writing out the algorithm in pseudocode. Okay, we want to sort an array, or we want to reverse a string. How would we do this? We want to, okay, iterate all through this, replace this. We need to speak, do that. So we are not just going to be going straight into writing code, which is the way an interview works. You don't just go straight into, oh, reverse a string, reverse a string, and you just start typing. I don't know, most people don't have
Okay.
for that. They want you to talk and interact, because sometimes your interviewer doesn't is not even aware of the language you're writing. We don't know the language you may be writing, and you still have to write the code in that language, right? But before you write the code, you need to be able to tell me what the solution is, and I need to understand. So in that way, we do actual problem solving and writing pseudocode, speaking in the language we understand first, which is English, and saying,
Yeah.
okay, this is the way we are going to do this. These are the steps we are going to do this. And when we have all understood the solution, we can now like find a volunteer that can write the language or write the solution in any language you're comfortable in. The beautiful thing is, if you actually understand the solution, if we have gone through the solution together and we understand it, if someone is writing it in the language of your choice, you probably will understand, even if you are not in, you don't understand the language. I mean, if I'm writing a for loop in Python now, there's no way you will not recognize that this is a for loop, even though you've just done C# or Java all your life. So you probably will be able to follow along and go through. But the most important thing is even understanding the solution to the problem.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on, just like as I was saying, in your breakout room, please speak up. Super important. I don't know, I can't overemphasize this. Speak up and interact. It is here for you. We did this for you, and we want you to get as much as you can from it. And on the Slack channel, make it a safe space for everyone. I said earlier, we are going to be managing communications via Slack. We have the Slack channel that we're going to be using. When you are posting your questions or posting your achievements, we're encouraging you to post your achievements. Hey, I just finished solving this problem. Oh, this is so nice. I was able to achieve this today. But understand that this is a safe space for everyone, and do whatever you want to do in a way not to intimidate every other person. I don't want someone to come there and feel like they are on LinkedIn all over again. I don't know, but I just feel LinkedIn sometimes can be toxic, especially when you're preparing for interviews. That is when you see people getting job offers in the company you are actually interviewing for. So you feel so intimidated and you're like, is there even still job space remaining for me like this? So that everybody has gotten all the whole, everybody job offer today, everybody job offer tomorrow. There's this space. So we don't want people to feel like as if they're on LinkedIn, but still feel encouraged. So do it in a way to be able to encourage people into doing whatever they want to do. Like, oh, you just solved the question today. Yeah, do it as a way to be able to motivate someone to be able to solve another question today. Not as a way to just boast off or show off or just come and tell us whatever it is. So make it a safe space for everyone so that everybody can benefit from this and get motivated or whatever it is. So just whatever you're doing, just do it as a way to be able to help someone. Yeah, just put that in your mind. And also we have mentors that can answer your questions and like provide help wherever you need. But be respectful of your mentor's time. See, we are not paying these people. We don't have money to pay them. And we don't want you to stress them. And these people they have full-time jobs. They are working. They have things to do. So if they've not answered your question, especially for people like me that can reply in 3 days, please respect their time and respect that they probably all have other things they're doing. They will try as much as possible to get back to your questions and provide solutions to your question, but understand that it is okay for them to not answer your question in a day or two. Just keep that in mind. Is there any other questions at this point? Let me use that to run through the chat again. Okay. Okay, moving on. And just like I said, we have quite a number of facilitators that are going to be helping you through this journey. We are not going to do this all alone. I mean, we are just how many people in Women Code. And we have quite a lot of people that may want to benefit from this. So we have people that are willing to help us out and people that are willing to help you make sure that you get as much as you want from these sessions. And I don't know, I know I know some people joined earlier, so let me see, run through the list so that they can introduce themselves and you can be able to place a name to a face to the name. Yeah, okay. I see Timilei, I see Fumi, I see Tunde, I see, who else? Okay. So Timilei, Tunde, Fumi, do you want to introduce yourselves? Do you want to turn on your camera? Do you want to say something? So let me stop sharing my screen for a second.
Yeah, I can go first. So it's pretty early here, so my voice might still be a bit cracky. But I'm Tunde. I work at Microsoft. I kind of joined last year, April, and Hope told me about like the Women Who Code initiative. So I'm pretty glad to volunteer to help, and I hope we're able to like help enough people as possible. Yep. Hope we have a great time doing it.
Thanks. Timilei, do you want to go next? Or Fumi, do you want to go next? Okay. All right.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Lane. I currently work at Google in London. I've known Hope since secondary school. I joined Google about a year and 8 months ago. We had this program, I think, last year also, or last 2 years, I don't remember.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah, so I'm really glad to volunteer to help, and yeah, I hope it's interesting and you guys find it so helpful.
Thanks. For me.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you, Hope. My name is Fumi Kesha, and I work with Hope at Microsoft. And I'm happy to be here, happy to be doing this with you all. And I hope many people will be able to benefit from this program. I'm also looking forward to benefiting from this. So we're all going to learn together. And yeah, really looking forward to meeting everyone.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much. I don't know if there's any other facilitator here. Yeah, I can't see any name, I know. So yeah, let me share my screen again. Okay. So for the other people, you're going to be meeting them when it's time or so. So, but yeah, you have a lot of people that are interested in literally helping you to be able to make this awesome and worthwhile for you. Bringing me to the next thing, now I'm turning the spotlight back to you. Now, question for you, why are you doing this? Why are you joining us? Why do you decide that, oh, I want to join algorithm and data structure series? I want to do this again for those that are doing this again, because I can see some names from the last one we did. Thanks for joining us again. So why are you doing this? And I would like you to be able to drop this on this form here. And I think the form is anonymous. No, it's not because you drop your name. But let me see. Let me change it so you don't have to put your name. But why I'm doing this is that so that later on we can visit this and go back to it and say, okay, you said you want to be able to get comfortable with solving questions. Have you been able to achieve that? More or less, like, do you want to be able to, depending on wherever you had your journey, some people, they're like, okay, I know personally of one person, I don't know she's here. They'll be like, yeah, I want to be able to solve, I want to start preparing for interviews, I want to start doing this. But solving lead code questions has just been like a nightmare. It's like, that thing is just stressful. So you want to be able to get comfortable with solving this question. You want to like get started with the fact that, yeah, I've always said I want to solve questions. I've always said I want to solve these good questions. Have I, or can I start? Can I like finding that push to be able to make you say, yeah, I want to start solving this question, and I've started solving these questions. So do you feel like you want to get to that point where you be comfortable enough to now have that courage to be able to say, I want to start applying for interviews? Because that's some people's issue. They're like, they are not sure they are ready yet. I don't think I'm ready yet. So you want to get to that stage where you feel you're ready to actually start interviewing. Or for some people, it has been like, yeah, I want to interview, I want to solve questions. My goal is to solve one question every week. And after like 3 months, they've actually not solved one question. So do you want to have that accountability, like something to kind of push you and motivate you that I know I need to solve one question at least every 2 weeks, right? Something to be able to make you know that before the next meetup, I need to solve this one question for the next meetup. It's not just that one question, it could be like solve one question and more, but at least starting from one. So do you want that environment that would keep you accountable and hold you into making sure that you stay with whatever goal you've decided that you want? Or do you feel like you want to practice for interviews, you have interviews coming up, or you already started applying and you want that safe space where you put yourself in that environment to actually practice? Just like as I was telling you to know earlier, some of us, we are actually very good in solving questions. It can be that, or when they give you a question, you can sit down, brainstorm in your head, everything goes on in your head, you provide the solution, bam, bam, bam. But when it comes to now communicating or talking about that solution to somebody else, it becomes a problem. So do you feel like you want to have that space where you can actually practice for actual interviews? So not just what you are used to of just solving questions or just writing code, which many of us are good in. So getting into that space where these people, where that people testing, that people that companies actually test, they test how are you actually able to communicate this solution you're actually trying to solve. Or do you just want to find a community where you either achieve whatever you want to achieve, just finding a community of people, like-minded people that are doing this together with you, just trying to understand there are people going through the struggle with you? Because trust me, it's not easy to go through these things. You would always get breakfasts, you will always get rejection letter, you always get unfortunately. So having that community of people that you can always say, okay, I got an opportunity today and I feel pretty sad. You will always have people that can be able to tell you that, don't worry, we have always been there. We do this like a lot of times. Personally, me, oh God, I've gotten a lot and I've cried a lot. So I totally will understand. Or you just want to find someone to be able to share that congratulations meal with. We want to provide that space for you. Or even if you just want to make new friends, totally fine. It's like super fine. So whatever the reason is, we would like to know why you're doing this so that we can be able to check in along the way. How are you going through with this? Is this beneficial to you? Are you finding that why of the reason why you came here? Or even if you've not found the why, you can think about it. Take a minute or two to be able to understand, why actually am I doing this? Because you don't have to do this. Not everybody has to. You don't have to go through the stress, because I know they actually stress us a lot. Companies stress us by having to do this algorithm and data structures questions that you feel like you probably will never use when you actually start doing the job. So you don't have to go through the stress, but if you feel like you want to, you need to give yourself that why. This is because there are a lot of times you feel like quitting. There's a lot of times you feel like, okay, I'm done with this. Personally, when I was preparing for Microsoft interview, when I was preparing for my on-site interview, I started preparing like pretty late because before the interview, I'd already given up. I decided that this cannot work out. And this is because before that interview, before I got to the invite for the on-site interview, I had interviewed at several companies. Like I've been interviewing for so long. So my classmates, or it was like a movement kind of thing in my class at that time. God bless my classmates anyways. So everybody was like providing a community for each other. We were like there for each other. We wanted everyone to be able to get to wherever they wanted. And trust me, it was not easy. I got a lot of rejections. I've interviewed in several places. And when I got that Microsoft interview, I'd already given up before I even went for the interview. I said that this was not going to be for me, or I wasn't going to pass. I wasn't going to make it. But just for some reasons, I just decided to reach out to some of my classmates. And I was like, okay, you know what? I want to take this serious. I want to like, you know, just do this. Let's see how it goes because we never can tell. So I be that God had said that okay, Microsoft is the company I'm going to enter, and I would just feel like I already ditched my hope before I even entered. So I was like, let's even just give it a shot. And they were like super helpful. I'm not going to lie, I'm not doing this to praise anyone, but they really, really helped me through the process of like my Microsoft interview and like always helping me to solve questions. We'll go there, we'll do whiteboarding together. But the problem is, whenever I was alone, there were times I would try to solve questions, and I was giving myself a goal of, hey, Hope, before you go for this interview, you need to be able to solve at least a medium lead code question in 30 minutes. So meaning if I see a new question, I should be able to provide a solution to that question in 30 minutes. So that was the goal I was giving myself because this is actually the way interviews work. But a lot of time when I can't solve that question in like 1 hour, I will just carry my phone, go to LinkedIn and look for jobs in Lagos, Nigeria. Like I would just be like, see, it's like this is not working for me. And I would just start searching for jobs. Where can I apply to? The one that actually would accept me the way I am. Why do I have to do this? Go through this whole stress because I want to enter one company. So there were a lot of times I felt like quitting. But the major thing is if you remember actually why you started, if you remember that the reason why I wanted to do all this is because I didn't want to work for, I didn't want to go back to that circle I went for when I was doing my internship. When I was doing my internship, there were a lot of companies that wanted to hire, but whatever they were doing was just not interesting to me. I just realized I probably would just be calling CRUD APIs every single time. Like my life was going to be boring if I actually entered into this company. So I wanted to go to that space where I would do more. I would like, you know, I would have to expand my brain. I would have to go beyond my limits to be able to do more. So that was the reason why I wanted to interview or get into this company. So times like that, when I felt like quitting, or whenever I felt like, it's like I don't want to go through this stress. It's not by force because this thing is stressful. I just have to remember that the first reason why I did this in the first place is to not come back and actually find or work in these companies I didn't want to work in earlier. So that's why I'm encouraging you to actually find the reason, find a why, find the reason why you are doing this. Because as I mentioned again, it's not for everybody. You don't have to do this. It's not, I don't know. I don't want to discourage you, but it's just don't see it as a pressure of everybody's getting a job in Google, Microsoft, or this place. Me too, I must. It's not by force. Don't put yourself in this pressure that later on you'll be like, why did I even do this to myself? I could have spent this time figuring out what actually would work for me instead of doing this. So you probably want to spend that time right now to figure out if you actually want this and why you actually want this. I know I've talked too much. Okay. So does anybody has any question at this point before I move on? Anyway, I'm sorry. Today is an introduction section. So I'm probably going to talk a lot through it. But come next to can't be talking like this, don't worry. Okay. Okay, let me move on. So when I'm done, I will post um all the forms on the chat. I don't know right now. Let me see if I can actually post. Okay, I think I can copy link. Okay, yeah, I think I can. So let me see, where's the chat? Just a minute. Oh, okay, somebody posted it already. Thanks so much. Okay. Okay. So now, a normal typical interview process, and this actually varies company to company. It depends on the company and it depends on how they do their interview or what they are testing. So, but normally you submit your CV and application, which we are not going to be looking at. So those things on blue is things we are not going to be focusing on. But normally you go through that stage and getting your CV into the door. See, at each of these stages, it's like mountain and gates you have to conquer. It's like places you have to put prayer and fasting to be able to go through the next stage. Because CV and application, your CV can be so awesome. And yet all you just do is sometimes you even submit your CV into for some companies and immediately they will just reject you. You'll be like, wait, did they even calm down to actually read my CV at all? Or is it that just one bot just saw the CV and just saw Nigeria and just said, okay, we don't do these people. So these stages are like different mountains you have to surmount. For you after CV and application, you have behavioral interviews. Some companies actually merge this into every other interview process, and some companies provide a specific interview just for this, just to check if you're a good fit. We move on with this person. Is this person like, mentally okay at all, or is this person actually, going to be good for our company? Then some companies will do coding test next, and where they give you a question that's time-based, but I think you can solve it anytime you want within a specific period or between a particular, like before a particular date. And this question could be either in Akara, Kodliti, Kodapad, I don't know, any one of this. But it's more or less like most of the questions are not going to be too different from questions you see on Lead Code or Akarang. I'm not saying exactly copy and paste. A lot of people took their questions. Then the next one is phone screen. Now, phone screen interview is not phone, and it's okay if you think it is phone. The first ever interview I did, I thought they were going to call you and talk to you and just check how you are doing or how is it going. I didn't know you were actually supposed to code. So phone screen is actually code and you have a call with the person. I think before COVID, actually, this was before you have to go on site to the place. So you have, if you, most times it's just one session. So probably 45 minutes to 1 hour. And some, like I said earlier, some companies incorporate behavioral interview into this process. So what happens is you probably use 15 minutes to do behavioral interview, checking your CV or asking you, tell us about the time you did this, tell us about the time you did this, just testing your soft skills. And then you use 30 minutes to solve questions. So they give you a question and you have to write it on like a normal paper. So sometimes it could not even be a coding environment. You probably don't have the environment. I know like Google, when I did Google, they did their interview on Google Docs. So you write your question, your solution on a Google Docs, so you're not running it. And for some other people, they just use some other like normal, whatever, like a template or a place where you can just write your code. But most of the time, it's not a place where you can run it or something. So then on site, now that things are virtual, this on site is not like physical anymore. It's like still like multiple phone screens interviews, but it's just that you are doing rounds of interview. It can range from 3 to 5, depending on what you're interviewing for and depending on the company. And you're literally doing a whiteboarding session, just like as I was saying earlier. Whiteboarding is different from whiteboarding is different from um it's different from you just writing a code. It's different from a coding test. So you doing a coding test, you're not talking to anybody. You are just finding the solution in your head and you are providing the answer, just the way you do lit code right now. But whiteboarding and in on-site or maybe phone screen interview, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to talk through to your interviewer. So you're going to be solving the question as if I were to be a company, in a company, and if we're working as co-mates or co-workers, we actually have this problem and we are providing the solution to the problem together, but you in charge. That's the thing. So you're given the problem, you are working through it together with your interviewer. So you need to be able to communicate with them. You need to be able to talk with them. You need to be able to take hints from them and solve this problem together with them. Like, oh, do you understand? Do you feel me? I've been in an interview, they said that. Do you feel me? You get me? You just make sure you're giving that vibe to the interviewer that we are doing this together, not just I'm in one isolated environment and I can do this on my own. You get it? So again, it depends on the company and it depends on the stage or whatever you're interviewing for. I know for Microsoft, what you do is after your CV and application, we don't do behavioral, like you go to coding test, you are given a link where you have to solve a question on codility. And after the coding test, depending on what you're interviewing for, you would not be given phone screen. So like if it's new grad interview that I did, after coding test, you go for on-site. And inside the on-site interview, they test the behavioral, they test everything. So you have on-site of 4 interviews. You are meeting an interviewer 1 hour each. And in that 1 hour, I think they use 10 minutes to test your behavioral. And after testing your behavioral, like storytelling, just more or less like, oh, I see this in your CV. And don't lie. That's why you don't lie in your CV. And don't lie in your interviews. Please, I'm begging you. I see this in your CV. You said you built this at the time. You built Google. You helped them to be able to build a search engine. Okay, how did you build it? What data structure did you build? Oh, they will ask you questions, and you need to be able to like defend your CV. So majorly, behavioral interviews like you defending your CV, defending whatever you put there. And some people used to ask some other behavioral question like, "Oh, tell us a time you resolved so," or tell us a time you were given a question that given a problem that you could not solve or you could not approach, how did you go about it? So just storytelling and just deciding that naturally you as a person, without coding attached, without software engineer attached, you as a person, who are you? And do we want you in our company? Do we want your personality in our company? That's just what they are testing. And then after all of these stages, you can either decide to get one of this, is that you get congratulation mail or you get unfortunately, which is normal. I don't know, I used to call it unfortunately, but it's always rejection mail. What happens is immediately you see that pop up in your mail and you just see mail from so company and you write unfortunately at the beginning, just know that but this will not go well. We move on. We move. So this is just typical interview process, but again it differs and depends on the company. Always do your research before you go for any interview or start any interview process. And again, does anybody have any question or I can move on? Okay. Yeah. Now, during a normal typical interview process, what is being tested? So literally, I know, as I said earlier again, it's always like, why are they stressing us? Why do they have to tell me to do binary search? Why do they have to tell me to learn how to do binary tree? Literally, if I get to this company, if I'll do binary search, I can just literally, is it that I'm searching it online or I'm using one library or the other? I'm not going to be going there to go and learn how to reverse a string. Or on normal day, you'll be like, am I actually using these things that you try, people are testing me on? So normally they are testing these things or just because of several reasons, I don't know. But not to be able to like sorry to be able to debunk some things. Some of the things they test is to, I'm coming, just okay. Oh, okay. I'm coming. I get your question. So what is being tested? Let me go back. I think I've derailed a bit. So what is being tested? So literally they are testing your problem solving skills. Just like I said earlier again, they are not just checking how well you can write code or whatever language you're writing in. How well can you solve a problem? We gave you this problem. How can you think? How can you analyze the problem to be able to come up with a solution? So that is why most times and most companies always try to be able to give you a question you've not seen before. And even if they give you a question you've seen before, super good, just move on. And finding the solution without having to just jump into coding is what many people are looking for. Because yeah, we are very used to be able to say, write a code to do this, especially when you're in school. If you went to school like me, you just do write a code to do this, and you are just literally writing the code without having to go through normal, how do I design this? How do I actually come up with this problem? How would I be able to write, like sit down, think about, do I understand the problem? This is the solution. Write an algorithm for the solution, not a code for the solution. And this is because it will save you time to be able to, instead of having to write the code all after writing one long line of code or one long this thing, then you now realize that, oh, this approach is actually not feasible, or this approach is not making sense. And then you have to start all over again. If you actually did the algorithm, wrote the pseudocode or something, and you tested your examples and your approach on it, it will save you so much time to be able to know that, okay, this is not going anywhere, this is not working, or this is not feasible. And you can rewrite that or change it before writing the code. And the next thing they are testing is your coding skill. How actually can you write code? How are you able to use variable names and not just the normal A equals to this that we are used to? We are very used to using short variable X and Y, super easy. So, but like, can you actually write descriptive variable names? Am I able to understand your code, even if I don't understand your language? And that's why I was saying again that your language is like super node dependent. Even if you are applying to Microsoft, nobody expects you to know C# and C++. It's not a compulsory, it's not part of the requirements that must be efficient in C++ and C#. What you will see is must be efficient in an object-oriented programming, on an object-oriented program. This is because if you know any of this object-oriented program, you should be able to apply that knowledge in any other language that we use in our team, because you don't know the language your team may use. Not every team in Microsoft use C# and C++. There are teams that use Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, everything, Ruby. So you are not so sure of what they are going to be using. But you've been able to solve problems, which is number one, and then write your code to the interviewer in such a way that even if he doesn't know Python, he can understand the code you wrote in Python. Tells a lot about you. And then technical knowledge, I've already touched on that earlier. Knowing on the computer science fundamental, knowing what is an object-oriented programming, what are the concepts in object-oriented programming, just majorly like the fundamentals, not even the language, that we make mistake to learn. Most of us go to school, like my school, they teach you just the language, teach you what Java is, teach you what Python is, instead of teaching you the fundamentals of a language, so that whenever you see any language, you're able to pick it up easily. So that's, yeah, I want you to focus on that. So whenever you're learning any language or anything, make sure that you're learning these various computer science fundamentals, irrespective of the language you're using it to learn. And then they want to check your experience. What have you done before? So even if you are applying for an internship role, they still want you to give them a benefit of, like, nobody wants to just gamble on an employee and just be like, maybe this person would succeed, or maybe this person, like, you have to give them a reason to be able to say, okay, we think this person will do well, this person will be a good fit. Like, they are not looking for smart people. Okay, not every company. Some companies are looking for smart people. That's why I say do your research again. So for like my company now, they are not looking for smart people. Like, you need to be good. You need to like provide good solutions. You need to be knowledgeable. Yeah, that's the word. You need to be knowledgeable. You don't have to be super smart. We're not looking for genius. We are looking for people that can learn. We are looking for people we can train. And we are looking for people that, oh, based on your experience so far, I can say that this person if given the right resources, given the right environment, this person will thrive. That's what they want to see. So even if you're applying for an internship position and you don't have any work experience, make sure you've done projects, make sure you've done things before to be able to show that, okay, I have experience, to be able to show that I can work well in a team. I have experience to be able to show that I can provide solution to a problem, or I can do this. So providing that experience is what they want to see again. And your communication skills, I can't overemphasize that. That is why I actually want to always, I'm providing that whiteboarding session where you are in a room with other people and you are solving a question together. Talk through the problem, communicate your solution. This is what I have in mind. And this is the way I'm thinking the solution should be, not just going straight into just coding the solution. And okay. So now, when you're given a problem, you are in an interview or you are anywhere in a whiteboarding session, yeah, maybe, and you are given a problem, okay, this is a problem, reverse a string. How do you want to solve this problem, or how do you want to go about solving this problem to ensure that you are doing the right things or you are communicating properly? First thing, listen to the problem, which you would do. Is it that the problem right now, things are online, so it's super easy that they have to type it out. The most times they have to like write the problem so that you can see it. Now, either you listen to the problem or read the problem, take time to like sit down and read it. Then second, ask clarifying questions. This is like super important. If you don't understand anything, if they say, oh, reverse a string, ask, is this, how is this string going to be given? Is it possible that the string would be empty? Is it possible that this, so find edge cases in your head or find possibilities that you want to, that could happen. Don't just assume. If they say we are given an array, you have to sum the array. It is possible the array can be empty. It is possible the array can be null. So ask this question: is it possible? And the interviewer may be like, "Oh no, don't worry. The array would never be null. The array would always have an element." Ask these questions. Ask clarifying questions. Super important. And even if you are going along and you find out anything, go back, ask the question. And also draw out your own examples. Find an example to be able to go through each of whatever it is. So if they say, oh, reverse a string, write out a string and say, do you mean given this type of string, is this what you are expecting? So normally what just used to happen is that you're given an input and you're supposed to give an output. So clarify and understand that, is this going to be the output given this input? So give your own example. This is the input I'm thinking in mind. If I understand you correctly, is this what this will give us as the output? So regardless of whatever examples they've given you, you give your own example to be able to show that you actually understand the problem. Now, after understanding the problem, you can jump into giving your optimized or awesome solution if you have the solution in your head. Or you can start with, okay, a rough thinking in your head, or roughly thinking about this is the solution that comes to mind. Now, why I put the brute force solution part there is because it gives you the ability to kind of not give a gap. So I know whenever they give you the problem, and whenever they give you the problem, it's super okay and it's super normal to be able to say, oh, let me take a minute to understand this. Let me take a minute to digest the question. It's super okay. So feel free to do whatever you want, anything that works for you. You can tell the interviewer, oh, give me a minute. I want to understand the question. I want to digest the question. Major thing is that you communicate so that when you're keeping quiet, they will not just assume that you don't know the answer or you don't know what the solution would be, so that they will not just start giving you hints unnecessarily. Because okay. So make sure you always communicate. If you are taking time to understand the question, tell them that, okay, give me a minute, give me 2 minutes, I want to understand the question. Now, for the brute force solution part, you probably want to do that to be able to, like, you are thinking through the problem, right? And you are thinking through the solution. You are trying to provide a solution to the problem. Now, doing the brute force allows you to be able to keep on communicating or keep on talking, to be able to like tell the interviewer, to let them know that, okay, I'm still in this, I'm still doing this, I'm still trying to figure this out. Like, okay, this is a rough solution that comes to my head. I know it's not the optimized solution, but I'm just thinking through this. Super okay. Just communicate with the person as if you're talking to a friend. That's just the thing. And then you optimize your solution. And then before implementing your solution, make sure you have talked this through with your interviewer. Tell them that, okay, this is what I have in mind, or this is the solution I have in mind. And just like I said earlier, talk through your solution. Don't just think about the solution you enjoy, be like, oh yeah, I got the solution, and just start writing code. No, even if it is just pseudocodes or just writing your code in dashes, and just be like, oh, first thing we go to the array, or just talking through it. So what I think in my mind for reversing a string, I think we can go through the array and or you can be like, oh, I think we can actually run through the array from the back. We can actually start iterating through the array from the back. And by iterating through the array from the back, we can just start printing out each of the letters or each of the characters into another string. And at the end of the day, we have our reverse string. Like whatever it is, just make sure you've clarified that solution with your interviewer before you start writing code. Or you can be like, okay, now can I go ahead to write the code? So that you just don't do some half-baked solutions that the interviewer doesn't even understand. And worst case scenario, you now go and write the code in the language your interviewer does not understand again. And at the end of the day, they would not say, oh, I did not understand the solution this person was providing. So make sure you help yourself, that you've communicated your solution, your interviewer understands before you write the code. And always state your complexity, state your code complexity. Time or space complexity, I will go into it later. I will kind of touch on it, but always state it. It is super, super important, because to allow them to be able to know that, okay, you understand how this code is supposed to run. And it's okay to make trade-offs. You can be like, oh, this is the solution I have in mind, which is why I'm saying communicate with your interviewer again. You can have two solutions in your mind. One will take more space, one will take more time. You can talk through these two solutions with your interviewer and be like, I'm thinking I would decide to go with the one that takes more space, because computer will always have enough space, right? But we may not always have enough time. So like just communicating this with your interviewer kind of like, yeah, I know, but let's go with the one that takes more time. It depends. So just having that communication matters, and always state your complexity. And then lastly, always test your code. Very, very important. Testing your code is super important. Many people will write code, and especially if you're writing in a whiteboarding scenario where you don't have a compiler to run your code, we just write the code and assume we are done. Being able to take that extra step of testing your code goes a long way, and tells the type of person or the type of programmer you are. And to be able to test your code is like super easy, even if you're not using compiler. Go through one of the examples you've chosen earlier, and just do comment on each line, just saying, okay, if you're talking about the reverse string problem now, you've written the array, you've written the code that goes through the array, but it's iterating the array from the back. So what you do is that you take the solution, the example you had earlier, you go through each of them, just comment. While the for loop is running, you know that, oh, it's going to print this. When the for loop runs again, you know it's going to print this. When the for loop runs again, it's going to print this. And by the time you get to the end, you know that, oh, this is not going to be the output. So even if you don't have that compiler, you've been able to talk through testing your code. Just the major thing is make sure you test your code. And sometimes you can have a compiler, because like right now for Microsoft interviews, they give you Codility. And what happens is in Codility, you can actually run your code. So you can just create a sample main class that can call the function you've just written, put the tests inside, and just run each of the tests. Super easy. But any which way, whether there's compiler or no compiler, make sure you test your code. Super important. Now, so having said all those things and having gone through a long, almost 1 hour of talking, and I'm sorry for just having you to listen to my crooked voice. Now, given this problem, and we are solving this together as a group, as a large group. So this is supposed to be an easy problem on Lit Code, so it's super easy. And it's totally fine if you feel like you're not at this stage yet, you are yet to learn. But given this problem, this is the problem on Lit Code. Now, what the problem is that, again, we are solving this together. So feel free to unmute your mic and you are going to be the one solving this problem. I don't know. I've not solved this problem, so I don't know the solution. We are solving it together. So you have, what the problem is trying to say is that normally they develop a product, and anytime they develop a product, once they get a bad version of the product, every other version that's coming after that product is always going to be bad. So the goal is that given different, sorry, let me take a minute. So I'm going to give 1 minute or 2 minutes for you to like read the question. This is the question, the same thing on Lit Code. You can go to Lit Code if you want, but this is the question here. Read the question, digest the question, try to understand what is the question trying to say. I'm giving you just 1 minute, I guess. Let me just go and find a solution to my All right, so I'm hoping that you took some time to actually assimilate or understand the problem. Okay, so now, is anybody, let's start with even like understanding the problem, like listening and understanding the problem. So is anybody willing to talk us through or explaining the problem to us? So problem now, not solution. So explaining, you're repeating the problem back to your interviewer and saying, okay, this is what I understand. Repeating that problem back to your interviewer. Is someone willing to do that? Volunteer. Okay, good. We have quite a number of hands. Interesting. Okay, so I'll go with the first one here. Richard. Okay, Richard, do you want to explain the program for us? And good thing I'll come back for you. We have. Hi,
Okay.
Richard. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Sure.
Okay. So basically, from my understanding, the problem is saying that you're a product manager and your team usually develops new products, and you lead that team. So unfortunately, the most recent versions of our products fail a quality check. So it's basically the most recent versions are the latest versions of the product, and they fail quality checks. And previous versions are based on the present version which we are working on. So it's saying each version is developed based on the previous version, and all versions after a bad version are also bad. So if our latest version of a product is bad, then our previous versions are also bad. Like everything is like back down the drain, moving backwards. So yeah, if we have n versions given to us in form of an array, and we want to find out the first bad version, which causes all the following ones to be bad. We are also provided with a bad version Boolean value, function, which returns whether a version is bad or not. The goal of the problem is to implement that function. Is to implement a function that will find the first bad version. And yeah, it says we should minimize the number of calls to the API. So basically, what we are asked to do is to find the first bad version using the function provided for us to check if a version is bad or not. So I think that's what the problem is talking about. I don't know if I did well explaining it.
Yeah, you tried in trying to explain it, in understanding the fact that, yeah, we have an API call to call each of the versions. And once a version is bad, every other version following it is bad. Yeah, understand it. Like that. Now, so does anyone want to ask any question, any clarifying question, or does anybody like want to, you don't understand the problem, you don't understand the question, and you want to understand the question? Hi, Chamaka.
Hi,
Yeah.
good evening.
Good evening. How you doing?
So I have a question, and my question is, the input we are given the first bad. So what I'm going to ask is, this first bad we are given, is it as a result of implementing the function?
So thank you for asking that question. We are not going to be given the first bad. You're just going to be given the input, which is n. So you're going to be given n, but the first bad is trying to say that if our first bad is 4, you have to return 4. So your job or your algorithm and solution is to find that first bad.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Precious. Hi, Precious.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so I just I want to test out, reading out the question and trying to see if I understand. So, I think since it says that we have versions 1 to n, and you want to find out the first bad one, and it says, unfortunately, the latest version of your product fails the quality check. Since each version is developed based on the previous version, all the versions after a bad version are also bad. And then you are given an API bool is bad version, which returns whether version is bad. Okay, and according to the examples, you said you're only giving the input, that is n. So is it okay to assume, I think
say what you want
the
to say.
next bad version has to be the I think the bad version has to be the one that is directly before our input. So if we are given an input of 5, then we would assume that our latest bad version is 5 minus 1, and are we to assume that there's actually no version created yet, or there's or we're working with a situation where there's actually already a created where they are already created this software
Yeah.
that okay, yeah, our
Yeah,
product is already created.
exactly. Yes. So
Okay. So
that's why you
if
should,
we
yeah.
so if we work with that assumption, I think if we have only one version,
No, no.
then it means that one
So what
is
happened is, no, what happened is we have several versions. So like, let's take for example, a I was gonna use Windows. No, I won't do that. So let's take for example any product. Now you have several versions of that product. It's not that they are going to be creating it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna give someone one more try out to like explain the question to me, and then I would try to like provide more context. But Temi, you
I
had
could
your
thank
hand
you.
raised. Yeah. So, Pressure, I was going to come back to your question
All right.
and come
So
back to
do
your
you?
your understanding. But was someone talking earlier? But
Yeah, got
I
me.
know you. Okay, yeah, okay.
Oh, should I
Yeah,
go on?
yes, go on.
Okay. All right. So what I okay. So the problem is actually to find the first bad version in a product. So what I can use is okay. Let's look at WhatsApp, for instance. WhatsApp they release different versions, and we are usually asked to update to the latest one. Usually, we don't do it for 100 users. You get to the point where your WhatsApp no longer works. So you're just forced to update. So that way you have different versions. Let's just take back, let's say the last 5 versions. So what we are supposed to do is we're supposed to find the first bad version. So let's say they had different 5 versions in January. So the first one was good. Then the many 4 versions was bad. So okay, let me say the first 2 was good. Then the last 3 was bad. So now we are supposed to find the first one. And we are already given an API, a Boolean API, where if all we have to do is if you call the first version with that API, it tells you, okay, this one is true. So if you call the first version with the Boolean, the API that was given to us, that means to check if the version is bad, we get false. So we get false for the first 2, and we get true for the remaining 3. So we are supposed to check which one resulted to the what? To the bad version. Which one started the bad version, which is actually the one before the true. That's going to be the third one. So the third one was the first bad version. So that's what we're supposed to check. So I'm just trying to analyze the problem, just the problem. It's just the problem. Okay, I should talk about the solution.
Not just the problem.
Solution.
Thank you. We are still in the problem.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So a quick tip here. Whenever you have lead code questions, actually, sometimes lead code questions are not like this, but many interview questions are like this. They give a lot of stories at the beginning. And the story matters. It's telling a story, but sometimes the story may not help you or it may confuse you. Now, looking at this one, the first paragraph, it's super good. But what it just tells us is that there are different product versions. Now, that unfortunately, the latest version of your blah, 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 may confuse you a bit, but it's still part of the story. So the major thing is by the time you look at this at a glance, you're just trying to understand that we have different versions of the product. These products could be anything. Now, these products, they could be outside right now. They are like existing. So these different versions are existing right now. But the problem is maybe at the end of the day, someone reported that, oh, this version you just gave us is not good. And then you now realize that looking down the line, we have been sending out bad versions since, and we didn't know where it started. So your goal right now is to find out where the bad version started. That's it. So that's what the upper paragraph may have been trying to explain. But if you actually cut it out and you were not looking at the paragraph, you realize that what you were just trying to say is that you have n versions of products, and you need to figure out which one is the first bad one. Simple. Like each one, we always tell you good or bad. But the only good thing is once you find a bad version, every other thing is bad. So if you are going to be looking through this version, if this version were placed to you on a table, and you have version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If version 1 is good, version 2 is good. Once version 3 is bad, every other one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 will be bad. That's what they are just trying to tell you. So now, your goal is to find out what that first bad version is. Now, does somebody want to go through the next step, which is providing your own example and telling us, so what you're trying to do now is you have examples here. They said, oh, if they give you maybe an input of n, the first bad version will be, and the first bad version is 4, your output will be 4. So does somebody wants to give a clarifying example? Anyone? Adelaide, do you want to go?
So, sir, hello. Oh,
Yeah, sure.
well done. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we move to the solution, I would like to talk about. Yeah. Okay. Before we move further, I would like to talk about the last part of the question.
Okay.
Is that you should minimize the number of calls to the API.
Yeah.
I really want to understand that part in correlation with implement, like the statement before that, implement a function to find the first bad version, which I believe is the expectation. Now, you should minimize the number of calls to the API. I believe there is something extra that I need to do apart from implementing the function. I want to understand that part.
Okay, sorry, I'm just using a minute to. Now, that part, does somebody wants to explain that part? Does somebody understand that part or want to explain that part based on their understanding? Okay, I'm gonna call Leonard. Do you want to explain that part?
Okay, so if from what I understand, if you want to minimize the cost to the API, I think they are trying to tell you that you shouldn't use the API to go through all the whole inputs. So you should find a way to maybe stop calling your API immediately you find the first bad version. So that is what I think it is, my own intuition.
Okay, cool. I like that. And
sorry,
one more
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Does that mean that we should find the best way to solve the question?
Yes, that's one of this thing. Finding the best way and trying to ensure that you are not calling that API for all, just like Leonia said, you're not calling the API for all the versions. So if they give you 5 versions, make sure you're not calling that API 5 times. Except if the bad version is the last one. But even if the bad version is the last one, they are trying to still tell you that minimize the way you use the bad version and not call it 5 times. So I actually still want examples. These are just 2 examples here. I want someone to give me like 2 examples on what they think it is based on the problem you've had so far, based on the understanding you've had so far of the problem. Give your own example. So give your own input and give what you think the output will be. Anyone?
So
yeah.
I don't know if I'm permitted to speak. I didn't raise my hand. Sorry about that. So I think if you ask an example, so from the context, it's probably like when you've already explained, but then it's more of when you get more an input array, or let's say like an input of versions, you should count how many in that input that is bad. It's more of like counting how many that is bad from any input you get. So say I get an input of 10 versions in my array. So what they need from me is in these 10 inputs, how many versions that are bad from the first bad version. So that's how I understand this conceptually. That's like the example in my head right now.
No way, I don't get what you mean. So like if they give you 20 bad version, 20 versions,
Yeah.
and
So if they give you 20 version, so you should return the number of versions that are bad, starting from the first, like from the first bad version. Oh,
no.
okay.
So they mean return the first. So if they give you 20 bad versions, see, this is why you should use examples. If they give you 20 bad versions, and maybe your first like version. So now what I mean is like if they give you n versions, these versions are numbered like maybe 1 to 10. So if they give you 20 bad versions, these versions are numbered version 1, 2, 3 up to version 10, version 11 up to 20. Now, if version 10 is bad, is the first bad one, return version 10 as that first bad one.
No, that's not what I mean. Like count from that version to.
That's not what they didn't mean. They meant return that first. So if the first bad version was version 13, return 13, not return the remaining.
Okay, I understood. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, does anyone want to throw any example also? Richard?
Okay, yeah. Sorry, a clarifying question. This part that says suppose we have n versions, we are always guaranteed because they are versions, right? And are we always guaranteed that like they would always grow in like a range of numbers, like from 1, 2, 3 in that order, something like that? Like
okay. Yeah. It's going to be given in integer form, and the input is always going to be a number. Like, okay, if we have 30 versions, the input will be 30. So meaning that we have version 1, 2, 3 up to version 30.
Yeah, so it means the input is going to be given as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 30.
But it will be given as a number, not an array.
Oh, as a number, not an array.
Yes, not an array.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, which do you want to?
Yes. So yeah, for the example, so from how I understand this, so let's say you're given an input, which is 1,000, and you are meant to find the first bad input. And let's assume that the first bad input is, let's say 5. So for you kind of like, so this is kind of, so basically you're meant to go through each of them and then find the first bad version, which is 5. And that is where, the statement, you should minimize the number of calls comes in. So you go from 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you get to 5, you say, okay, this is a bad version. So you're meant to stop there. You're meant to return false or true, sorry, is bad version. You're meant to return true for that particular 5. So basically what you've done is you've kind of like optimized that particular API call by limiting it to just the very first bad version, which is 5. So you saved the time that it might take, and also basically the time that it might take to loop through, so like from 5 to around.
Question for you. What if that first bad version is at the end? So let's say I have 10 versions. So meaning my n was 10. And the first bad version was actually 10, the 10th one.
Okay. So yeah, I think there is definitely an improvement to be made for that particular one. In such scenario, then probably you should probably use a much more better algorithm for that. But basically, we are still talking of the example, example of the problem at hand. Yes. Yeah. So So,
Yeah, I'm just saying that for that part of the implement minimize the API function. It's
okay.
that's why they put it there. Trying to tell you that
Okay.
make sure you use an optimized algorithm. That's just what that.
Okay.
That's just it.
Okay, now that I get it. Okay.
Olabisi, I saw you.
Okay, sorry, good evening. You asked him a question that what if the bad version is at the end?
Mm-hmm.
So can I answer that?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like to start with, we should probably like start at the middle. If you find your version there, like if there's a bad version in the middle, you move forward to the other half, start at the middle of the other half. That way you are reducing your amount of search and the amount of calls you're making.
Nice. Okay. We are already going to the solution. Nice. Thanks for that. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. That seems like the right way. Yeah. But before we move on, because we're already going to the solution now, still talking through, we are not going to write code. I'm actually not going to write code today. So still talking through. I just hope everybody understood the problem we are trying to solve here. And based on the examples we've given so far, you understand what we are trying to achieve. Hope everybody does that. If you don't, please unmute your mic and let us know. Did you understand the problem or not? If you didn't understand the problem, let us know. If you don't talk now, I will assume everybody understood the problem and we'll start going into the solution. Going 1, 2, 3, and grand. Okay. So now going to the solution, and as Olabisi said earlier, talking about not starting from the beginning. Now, that is a way to think about, we are taking care of the second clause of trying to minimize the number of times you kind of find the bad version, because normally you have this API is bad version to be able to find what that bad version is. Now, let's assume we are not yet thinking about the optimized way. If you were not thinking about the optimized way or how to do this to minimize calls, what would you have done originally? Like solution that comes quickly to your head of finding the first bad version. What would have quickly come to your head? Like, I want to find the first bad version. Oh, my namesake. Nice.
I hope.
Hi.
Okay, what quickly came to my mind at first was going from 1 till wherever n is to find the bad version. So like Lillian is searching through the numbers.
Cool. Yeah, sure. That is actually the first thing that comes to your mind. And most times, if you're in an interview scenario, this would have come to your mind quick. So I know you would have wanted to find the optimized way, but before you go to the optimized way, to be able to show that you understand the solution and the problem, you can quickly tell your interviewer that, oh, normally what first comes to my mind is iterating through this linearly to find the first bad version. And immediately I come across the first bad one, I return it straight. Normally, that is like a solution also, even if it's not the optimized one. Now, if you now take into cognizance the second clause, which says minimize the way you find that first bad version, minimize the number of times you call these APIs to find that first bad version. So what would you do? Normally, for us to minimize it, we can't just go linearly, because just like I said earlier, what if the first bad version is at the end? Meaning you would have to go through n to be able to find the first bad version, which is not what they wanted. They don't want you to call that API for each of the version. So what would be an optimized way? And I'm seeing some interesting things in the chat. Interesting. Interesting. So does anyone, apart from, wait, let me lower everybody's hand again. There. So does anyone wants to talk us through what the solution would be? Lower end. So, okay, Osinashe, nice. Does
Okay,
anyone?
good evening, everyone, or wherever you are.
It's fine.
Okay, so the solution, like earlier stated, would be starting on the middle. So it's going to be like a binary search process. So the first thing you want to do is divide, is to check the middle index. Or okay, you're given n number of versions. So if n is odd, that means you're going to be checking. Okay, let's say n is 7 now. So if you divide 7 by 2, you have 3.5. So you would probably start from 4. So you check for 4. You call the API for the version with index, the fourth version essentially. If that fourth version is if it's bad, it means that there's probably a bad version before before the fourth version. So you now focus on the first part of the divided version list. So 1 to 3, right? So the middle of 1 to 3 is 2. So you call the API for version 2. If version 2 is, let's say it's good, then the only choice you have left is version 3. So we can see version 3 is the bad version. So yeah, so that's how the algorithm goes. Okay, let's assume that the bad version is at 6 now. So you start from 4, and 4 it returns that it's good. So now you discard everything before 4, including 4, and you focus on 5, 6, 7. So now in that one, you're focused on that list now, on that mini list, you now check for the middle of that list, which is now 6. So 6 returns that it's a bad version, but you're not still sure. So you discard everything after 6, and you check, and the only thing left for you to check is 5. So you will now check 5, and if 5 is the bad version, but in this case, we know that 6 is the bad version, but 5 returns good. So we know that it's still 6. So 6 will be the answer return. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's like the right approach to the question. And I see interesting things on the chat. Like I would let you talk soon. So I see interesting things on the chat, and that was why I liked the question when I saw it. So just to debunk something, binary search is not just for arrays alone. So you can use binary search even when it comes to numbers. You can even use binary search if you want to search anything, even if it's strings. So the major thing is that thing searchable? Can you divide it? That's just the major thing. So yeah, it is a number, but you can use binary search. And the right approach is actually binary search. So given that number, just like Osinachi actually explained, what you're just doing is dividing the number into 2. You're still like literally binary search. All you're just doing is searching in the number. But in your head, you're going to be treating it like as if it's an array. That's just it. But it's a number. Because remember, again, these are versions. Now, these versions are different number. We have version 1 up to that number. So in your head, if you know that this is 20 and probably the first bad version was going to be 6, let's say, and this is 20. If you split 20 into 2, what do you get? You get 10. Now, if you checked 20, 20 was a bad version. You already know there's actually a bad version between 1 and 20. And you check 1, and 1 is a good version. You know there's a bad version somewhere between like 1 and 20. But if you divide it and you get 10, and you checked 10, 10 is a bad version. So meaning that it's a bad version somewhere in front between 1 and 10. You don't need to check 10 to 20 anymore. You just discard it. Now, moving on to 1 and 10. If you divide 10 into 2, you get 5, right? Now, if you check 5 and it's a bad version, you will know that there's a bad version between 5 and 10. But in this case, since we know that our bad version starts from 6, right? Our first bad version is 6. If we say our first bad version is 6, we know that by the time we check 5 we say it's a good version. And 10 already said it's a bad version. So we know there's a bad version in between 5 and 10. Now we just move on to 5 and 10. Now, if you divide 5 and 10 into 2, between 5 and 10, there are 5 numbers, right? If you divide it into 2, the middle would be, in this case, 7. I'm guessing, yeah, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7. The middle would be 7, either 7 or 8, I don't know. But by the time you find the middle, which is either, in this case, let's assume it's going to be 7, and you see that 7 is a bad version, you know that, okay, 7 is a bad version, and 5 is saying it's not a bad version. Then it means there's a bad version between 5 and 7. Now, if you check the middle of 5 and 7, think you have 6 or so. So it kind of limits you in checking into between 5 and 7, which is 6. And by the time you check 6, you see that it's a bad version. You already know 5 is not a bad version. So that means 6 is the first bad version. Now, by the time you do this, you are cutting your things into half when checking. You didn't have to check all through the array. Now, by the time you cut through into half, it means that you checked this thing just half the number of times. So if you had 20 elements, it means you only called that is bad version API 10 times because you were just splitting into 2. So that was a way to minimize calling that API. So someone says, what if the input is an odd number? If the input is an odd number and you are dividing your result, here you get floating number. That is why you have to floor. I mean, you have to use the floor or the ceiling, anyone you choose. So whenever you divide, if the input was going to be 7, and if you divide, you get 3.5, right? So you choose which one you want to go along with. Do you want to be using just floor, which is going to be 3, or the ceiling, which is going to be 4 in this case? So if you choose that, anytime you divide and you get a floating number, you want to use the upper limit, go through with it. That's just a major thing. So that's a solution or a way you can approach it to be able to minimize that. So now I'm not going to be writing the code, and I'm not going to be seeing anyone to write the code because we are running out of time and many people had to drop because of time. So this is going to be take home for you to go and solve this problem and provide the solution. Make sure you write it's on LeetCode. If you don't have a LeetCode account, go and sign up now. It is super important you sign up. You should have signed up before coming here. So make sure you solve this problem, especially with the fact that we'll be able to run through these solutions together. So you should be able to at least go to LeetCode now and provide the solution to the problem. Run it on LeetCode and ensure it works. If you have any problem, reach out to us on Slack. Now, I don't have time and I didn't know that we're going to run through to the end like this. Oh my God. I thought this was going to stop earlier, but I'm so sorry. This is running time. But let me just quickly run through just the remaining part of my slide. This is just talking about, I'm going to skip this. This is just tips and tricks. The only thing I'll mention here is please research on your company. Research on the company you're interviewing for. Different companies have different interview ways. Facebook, the way Facebook interviews is different from the way Microsoft interviews. It's different from the type of questions they ask. It's different from what they are looking for. So always make your research before going, if possible. Look for someone that is there already and ask. I don't know. There's nobody that works in Facebook here, but I know among the facilitators, there are people that work in Microsoft, people that work in Palantir, there are people that work in Google, there are people that work in Goldman. So Bloomberg, you can ask them any question if you're going for any of these interviews. Now, I wanted to quickly touch on time and space complexity. Now, while we were going through that last solution, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So when we are going to the last solution, we had something called, you would have seen some people put on the chart, like maybe this will run in log n time, this will run in so time. That is what's called time and space complexity. It's just literally talking about rate of growth. It's talking about how much something grows. I'm not diving deep into this. I'm just touching on it so that you can have a bit of understanding. And there are resources I would share. I could share on the Slack. I would share also this live so that you can get the resources so you can read up on it. Now, time and space literally is just time, how long is this algorithm going to run, given this type of n. So given n, is this thing going to be running as long as n runs or something? And space, how much memory is this thing taking? Now, we have different ways you can identify your time and space complexity, either the big O, which shows upper bound, or worst case scenario. Like worst case scenario, how long will this run? And big omega, which is like the lower bound, which is like always best case scenario, and big theta. But in interviews and normally as programmers, we majorly used to talk about big O, like order of n. This is because we always want to build for the worst case scenario, right? So we don't find it's good to think about best case, but best case doesn't show how good your algorithm is. Being able to take care of the worst scenario is what shows how good your algorithm is. That's why you see people saying big O, you see people write O, people say order of, they call it whatever name it is, but it's still saying the same thing. Just saying worst case scenario, this is how long or how much memory this algorithm would take. And now the normal common complexities that are out there is constant growth, like order of one, constant time, or constant space, meaning even if you have 100, like for the example we did now, even if n was 100, we are not going to use any space. We are not going to use any array. We are not going to use anything except if you want to use an array to write out, which is like quite unnecessary. So there's no point having to now create an array to be able to show these different versions. That shows you are just trying to put a lot of overhead in your algorithm. So you could still use n the way it is, even if you wanted to implement your binary search. You didn't have to do anything. So constant space, we use constant space in our algorithm because we didn't have to make use of any other extra space. We didn't have to create any extra array. We didn't have to create any extra string. We didn't use any extra memory. Now log n means for giving any algorithm, or if you're giving n, our algorithm will always run half of it, either use half of the space or use half of the time, like giving n. So like taking our example, so now if n was 100, binary search will run 50 times. Like we would call the API just 50 times. So meaning that given any amount of n, we are going to run the array half of the time. So that was a log n approach. Our time complexity was log n and constant space. Now, linear growth, which was the explanation, what's her name? Olabisi, is it Olabisi or I don't know, I can't remember. Someone gave earlier of the linear search, of just going through that thing linearly and checking each of the versions. And once we see a bad version, we return it. Now, that was linear growth because if n was 100 and the last version was the last one, it means we would have called the API 100 times. So that is linear growth, order of n. As much as n grows, our algorithm grows. And there's also another one, quadratic growth, which you probably don't always want to run through in your solutions. But it's super okay if you had to, if this is what you come up with in your head. Always say it, say that this is what I have right now. But I know the space complexity is n square. I'm trying to think of an optimized approach. The interviewer will know that, oh, okay, you actually have an idea of how long your algorithm will run or what space your algorithm is taking. Now, n square is given n, your algorithm was going to run like, how to put it? Like, so meaning for each of n, so like for us now, for the last example, it means for each of the version, maybe we're checking every other version again. So if you pick a version, you check every version again. Maybe if we're saying comparing versions, let's say we're not giving API or something, and we're saying, oh, just compare each of the versions. Now, it means for each of the version, you want to check every version again and compare it against each other. So that was going to be n squared because for each of n, for each of the elements, you're going to run through every element again, which is like exponential growth or something. I'll give you their resources where you can read more on these things and understand it more if you don't have any understanding on it right now. But now, just quick exercises. Now, just one minute. Let's just run through this. So if we had this, we can state the complexity, time, and space complexity of this. Anyone. And we are out of time, please. anyone. Anyone? Hi, to know, yeah. Anyone?
Okay, so we're using a for loop here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so we're using a for loop here, and we're going through n elements. So I would say the time complexity here is O of n.
Yeah, sure. Great.
Yeah, and then the space complexity is also O of n.
I won't say O of n. I would say constant.
Or constant time.
Yeah, really? Constant space. The reason is because now they gave you the array. We are not using extra space.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
They gave the
Thank
array.
you.
So we're not extra, yeah. So the space complexity is what extra space are we using to be able to achieve this thing? We are not going to be taking cognizance of the input. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something to put in mind, yeah. Okay, so what about this? Anyone? Precious, do you want to talk?
N square.
Nice, yeah.
Can you hear me?
N square. Yeah, we can hear you. It's N square. N square because we have two for loops inside each other, meaning that for each of the elements in the array, we are checking every element again for it. But what about the space complexity? Anyone? Oye Wumi, do you want to talk? Favor?
I guess it's constant because we're not creating any new array.
No extra space, yeah. So what about this one?
Can I? Oh,
yeah.
Is it this one I saw? The other one? Okay. Okay. It's actually I wanted to say linear, but then it's actually O log n from what I could see, because if you increment I, like if you increment I, it's like O log n.
It is log n. It's actually log n.
Yeah.
This is because if the length of the array was, let's say 10, this is going to run. So when it says, for loop, normally what we do in for loop is iterating through each of them one by one. That's why we do I++, meaning after I, we give I++ so that you go to the next one. But for this one, it's saying I times 2. So meaning that if we start from 0, and this is not correct because this will continue to give us 0. Because if we start from 0 and we say I times 0, because what is I times equal to means I equal I times 2, which is going to be, so let's say it's starting from 1. Forget the 0, that was a mistake. If it was starting from 1 now, the next one will be 2. And the next one will be 2 times 2, which will be 4. And the next one, so more or less like it is going to be growing in that kind of, how would they put it, that progression of times. So it's just at the end of the day, it's going to run like
exponential.
The number, yeah, but like the reverse of exponential. That's what I wanted to say. So it's just going to be growing like downward exponential, not like the upward one, not the normal one. So at the end of the day, it's going to run half the number of time. So, and this is the last one. Anyone wants to, and I'm sorry we are out of time. I didn't know it was going to take this. Oh, do you want to give it a try?
Log n.
This one?
Yeah. Sorry, not log. Sorry, like O of n.
Yeah, O of n. It is O of n. Even though it's 2 for loops, even though we are running through it 2 times, it is still O of n. Why? The reason why. Does anyone want to say something?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Sorry to drag you back, but I was going to say that the last one you put up before this.
Yeah.
it's actually correct. You mentioned that it wasn't correct. I was going to say it's correct because this I equal to 0 is talking about the index in the array, not 0 as a number.
Yeah, but yeah, what I was trying to point out was, if we do I times equal to, so that would be 0 times 0 times 2, which will still give us 0. So we just indexing the first element in the array instead of progressing.
I get you. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was why I said, well, yeah, just to correct that. So so I was saying for this one now, it's order of n, even though it's 2, even though it's the first one runs for n times, the second one to run for n time, even though you'd be tempted to say, okay, this should be 2n, like n plus n. But normally we drop constants. Like even if it's 3 for loops, we drop the constants because we are just assuming that, yeah, even if it runs n times, the number of this thing, like plus, is smaller than having to times. That's, I don't know if that makes sense, but more or less like we just drop the constant. So for this one, you will still say order of n, even though we have 2 for loops or 2 n's. And yeah, so that is the end of my long talk. I'm so sorry that I took your time and I just talked through, but I just hope you learned a lot from this session and you are prepared for the next and coming sessions, because coming sessions, these are the things you're going to be seeing in your breakout rooms, having to be able to state the time complexity of a solution, having to walk through a solution with your facilitator and working with the solution with everybody. First of all, understanding the problem, then going to the solution, and then going to an optimized solution, and then testing your solution, which we didn't do today, but you would end up having to test your solution later on. So I just hope you learned and you are prepared, and we would also see you in the next coming session. I hope so. So does anybody have any questions? And feel free to drop at this point. We'll share the slides on the Slack channel, and we'll share the resources also on the Slack channel. So it's super important you're on Slack, please. Thank you. And don't forget, please solve the first batch solution on this code before coming to the next class. Please do solve the next batch solution. And I'm sorry if you raised up your hand today and I didn't call you. I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to run through time. So does anybody have any question? Anyone has any question? And let me stop recording here. I hope I was recording all through.